without him, none of this could be possible for any of us. He is the source of all of our strength and all of our lives. So I give thanks to him first off. Second off, I would like to thank everyone who was instrumental from the Washington County Republican Women's Federation for getting me here, getting me such a wonderful room in our hotel, being so hospitable to us. I'd like to thank them. And then I always like to thank my wife. My wife and I have been married for some 28 years. And behind the scenes, like every other husband and wife, we argue like cats and dogs. Sometimes we don't get along so good, but the only reason why we don't get along so good is because we're so passionate about the things that we believe in, and we both are struggling so very hard to go in the same direction. So sometimes we butt heads, but without her, again, none of this would have been possible for me. She makes everything in my life possible. I don't know where I would be without her, so I give her thanks today as well. So let's get right into this. Don't want to be arrogant, but I want everybody to understand who I am. So who am I? My name is Mark Keith Robinson. I'm 50 years old. I was born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm sure all of you all probably know where Greensboro is. It's a medium-sized town in North Carolina. Nice town. As I said, I was born and raised there. I am the ninth of 10 children. Number 9 of 10 children. I was born into an extremely poor family, distressed family, fractured family, spent some time in foster care. My mother, after giving birth 10 times, I'm sure the experience of motherhood dominated her life. But, when I look back on those times as a child, even though we did not have very much, those were some of the best times in my life. I learned so much living in a large family about sharing, about giving, about struggle, about fighting for your position, fighting for what you believe in, standing up for what you believe in. So I learned a lot as a child. A couple of interesting things about my family. I actually have 2 sisters that I have never seen. Both of them are deceased, and I've never seen them, never got a chance to meet them. I plan on doing some research and trying to find out some more about them, but I never got to meet two of my sisters. My mom had 5 girls and five boys. Was married twice. She had 5 children with her first husband and 5 children with my dad. Like I said, I had a very interesting childhood coming up. So that's who I am. In a nutshell. Like I said, married 28 years, have 2 wonderful children, have a daughter who's in her 3rd year of law school, who has a 14-month-old son. I have a son who is slowly weaving his way through life. Have you ever seen the television show Kung Fu? He's wandering the earth right now like Kung Fu, trying to find his way. But he's a great kid, talented kid, and I think he's going to take the same road that I took. My wife, she took the straight road, high school, college, career. My daughter took the straight road, high school, college, career. I took the crooked path, high school, over here for a second, over there for a second, the Army, I think he's doing the same thing. But again, wonderful, wonderful child. So that's who I am in a nutshell. And let's talk about what I am. And here's the meat of this subject of what we're here to talk about tonight. What am I? I am a Christian. I am an American. I am a conservative. And I am a Republican. Amen. Let me say that again. I am a Christian. I am an American. I am a conservative. And I am a Republican. In that order. It's something that I am not ashamed to say. I would say that on any platform, on any stage, anywhere in this world. And here's why. I am a Christian. The number one reason I am a Christian is because Jesus Christ is the ultimate symbol of sacrifice in the world. Jesus Christ had all of the power of the universe in his hands. At any time, he could have turned around and went back to his Father in heaven and said, you know, it's not worth it. These people are not worth it. I'm not going to do this. At any time, he could have made that decision because he had all of the power. Not all the power in Washington, D.C., not all the power in Raleigh or any other state, all of the power in the world, he had it in his hand. And what did he do with it? He set it aside, allowed himself to be stripped naked, beat and crucified. And for who? For us, for me. Before I was even born, he was crucified on the cross for me before I was even born. Before I took my first step, said my first word, committed my first sin, he died on the cross for me with all of the power in the universe in his hands. That is the ultimate example of sacrifice. And that is why I am a Christian, because I believe that our lives, the essence of our lives is about sacrifice. It's about giving. And that's why I'm a Christian. And why am I a conservative? Why do I call myself an American? For me, this issue is very personal. You know, a lot of people characterize or call black Americans, they call us African Americans. There's no term that disturbs me more than that. And here's why. I was not born in Africa. I did not serve in any of the nations of Africa. I did not serve in any of their militaries. My mother and father were not born in Africa. I was born in the United States of America. My story is American. I am an American. I'm not a hyphenated American. I am a full-blooded American because my story is American. My story and the story of all the people who came before me from my bloodline are as American as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And I would expect to have all the rights and privileges thereof as an American. And I don't want those rights hyphenated, and I don't want my name hyphenated. I am an American, period. And that's why I call myself such. So why am I a conservative? I am a conservative because I respect the sanctity of human life. I have to take a break when I say that to keep myself from tearing up, because this is a subject that is extremely, extremely personal to me. And I'll tell you why. As I mentioned, 9 to 10 children born into an extremely fractured and poor black family in the South. I don't know how many of you all know who Margaret Sanger is. Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood, a person that I consider to be a wicked witch if there ever was one. If Margaret Sanger could have counseled my mother in 1967 when she became pregnant with me, she would have told my mother to abort me in her womb, because according to Margaret Sanger, a poor black child in the South was a human weed. That is why the sanctity of human life is so very, very important to me. And why I put it at the top of my agenda of things that we really need to push as conservatives. If you look at the socialists, the leftists that are trying to destroy this nation, and not just them, but all the leftists that came before them in the 20th century, the overriding theme of all of them, from Stalin to Hitler to Mao to Pol Pot, they had an overwhelming disregard for human life. And the leftists in this nation today have an overwhelming disregard for human life when they see their ability to be able to kill infants in the womb with impunity being threatened. Look at how they flew into a rage over Judge Kavanaugh. And why did they fly into a rage? Because they saw that ability slowly slipping away. They saw someone in power being put into a position of power that does not agree with their agenda to murder infants in the womb. And they flew into a rage. So the sanctity of human life, that's one reason why I'm a conservative. Another reason why I'm a conservative is because of this principle. I believe that I should earn my keep, but I also believe that I should keep what I earn. I do not believe that an all-powerful government has the right to come into my back pocket and take what I've earned and give it to those who will not. Notice I said will not cannot, will not, refuse to do for themselves. So I believe in the conservative principles of a conservative fiscal government, a government that believes that the welfare state should not rule. That is another reason why I'm a conservative. And perhaps the most powerful reason I'm a conservative is this. I believe in the sovereignty and security of this nation. You take a look at what's going on now on our southern border. That's not immigration. Immigration was Ellis Island. Immigration was people coming from Europe on ships with tears in their eyes that left their flags behind and shed tears when they saw our flag at Ellis Island. People who came here and learned our language and assimilated into our culture and proudly waved our flag and said, I want to be not what I was, but I want to be something new. I want to be an American. That is immigration. Anybody who comes to find their own flag to force their way in, that is an invasion. That's not immigration. And we need to get that straight. I say it like this all the time. If you want to stay what you were, you should have stayed where you were. Don't come to our country flying your flag. If your country was not fit to stay there, why are you still flying that flag? Unless you want to bring those principles here. And thank God we have a president that's put his foot down and said it's not going to happen. We all need to stand up and be right behind him in that fight. Because we all know that immigration is part of the thing that's made this nation what it is today, made it great. But invasion certainly has not. And that's what's going on our southern border. And again, that's one of the reasons why I am a conservative. So now, why am I a Republican? This gets a little tricky for me. Being a little darker skinned, this gets a little tricky for me sometimes. So people ask me this question all the time. They say, why are you a Republican? Why would a black man be a Republican? There was even a guy in Boston that wrote an article said that black men need to stop voting for Republicans. You know, it's the kind of guy you want to grab by the collar and go, have you ever read a history book? Here's why I'm a Republican. When the question was asked, should this nation be free or slave? It was Republicans that answered, it should be free. When the issue came up and the question was asked, should this nation be a union or should it be divided? It was Republicans that answered, it should be a union. The 13th Amendment, which ended slavery, was passed by Republicans. The 14th Amendment, which gave black people in this country equal rights under the protections of our Constitution, was passed by Republicans. The 15th Amendment that gave black men the right to vote was passed by Republicans. The 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote was passed by Republicans. And you ask me why I'm a Republican. You might as well ask me why I'm not a Democrat. And today it's the same. It is the same today. the same types of issues. Why am I a Republican today? Because Republicans, as I said, we believe in the sanctity of life. Just as we believed in freedom for all people, we believe in life for all people today. We believe in safe borders, secure borders, and the sovereignty of this nation. We don't believe that our borders should be open wide so that any and everybody can come in to do us harm. We believe that our nation should be sovereign and should be protected. We believe in economic prosperity for everybody, and we know and understand that socialism is not the way to get there. Right. We believe in fiscally responsible government. You look at what our president has been able to do while he's in office, and just think how much more he could do if he had our entire government behind us. If he didn't have some 40 to 50% of the people in Washington pushing against him. If they would push the agenda of America and Americans, imagine where we would be. Folks, it is up to us to continue to help him push this agenda. In my lifetime, I've never seen this economy roar the way it has. I've never seen people as proud to be Americans as they are since President Trump took office. So that's why I'm a Republican today. So where do we go from here? What do we do? What do we do? How do we keep this going? How do we keep this fight going? Let me tell you how we keep it going. In order to keep this fight going, the first thing we have to do is we have to know who we are in this room. And who are we in this room? We are Christians. We are Americans. We are conservatives. And we are Republicans. And we no longer need to be ashamed to stand up and proclaim those things. It is high time that Republicans and conservatives get as loud and proud with their message of the truth as these leftists have with their lies. For too long, we have laid down, we have stood down, we have stepped aside, we have stood in the shadows. It is time for us to come out of the shadows. It's time for us to speak up. It's time for us to be heard. It's time for us to demand that our story is told. And our story is the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment of the Constitution. Our story is a story of freedom and equality. The Republican Party has always stood up for those principles, and we need to start telling those stories. We need to start being confident in who we are and what we believe. We no longer need to be afraid to say those things, that I am a Christian, that I am an American, that I am a conservative, and that I am a Republican. Despite the demonization of our news media, despite the demonization of popular culture. You know, in this whole fight to save this republic, and that's what we're doing, folks. This is a fight to save our republic. Because most of us in this room, by the time this fight reaches its conclusion, most of us will be gone. Who will be left? Our children and our grandchildren and their children. And when they're 50 years old like me, I want them to be able to look back and see that they were able to enjoy the same freedoms that I had. The freedoms that were endowed to me by people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. I don't want them living under the yoke of Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. I want them to enjoy the same freedoms that I had. In order for that to happen, we have to be willing to sacrifice as Washington and Jefferson and the men of that era did. We have to be willing to take some punches, take some knocks, take some disappointments, take some losses. We have to be willing to take some threats, some name calling. We have to be willing to do it, folks, because this is not just a fight for us. It's a fight for our future generations and a fight for this country. So that's where we go from here. We stand up and we proclaim who we are and what we are. And we have to be proud of who we are. Because like I said, for far too long in this nation, folks like us, we've hidden in the shadows. We've been quiet. We've been afraid. We don't want our neighbors to know and our co-workers to know that we're Republicans and that we're Christians and that we're conservatives. And we don't want to proudly proclaim that we're Americans. Folks, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. And why is there nothing wrong with it? And I'll tell you why there's nothing wrong with it. Because we believe in a Savior that can save the entire world. Jesus Christ is the Savior of the entire world. Not just you and me, but everybody in it. Anybody. No matter what they've done, where they've been, what they've experienced, how bad they've been, how good they've been. If they fall on their knees and ask for forgiveness, Jesus Christ can save their soul. Amen. Jesus Christ changed the whole world on the back of a donkey with 12 friends. That's incredible. No social media, no Facebook, no Twitter, no worldwide news. A donkey and 12 friends, and he changed the world. That's why we don't need to be ashamed to be Christians. As far as being conservative, or Americans, excuse me, our nation has spread freedom and charity around the globe. I could go on and on and on and on about the good things that America has done in this world. Can you imagine a world today without America? Think where Europe would be without America. America has spread the ideals of freedom and charity and Christianity around this globe. And we need to be proud to be Americans. As far as being a conservative, that's an ideology that has raised the standard of living of hundreds of millions of people. Conservative capitalism has changed and raised the standard of living of hundreds of millions of people around this globe. Conversely, communism has killed hundreds of millions of people around this globe. So we don't need to be ashamed to call ourselves conservative capitalists. We need to be proud of that. We need to turn around and we need to look at this nation. Just look at this nation. The poorest person in this nation is more blessed than some of the people who live in other countries. And why is that? Because we believe in the tenets of conservative capitalism. So we don't need to be ashamed of that. And why should we be proud to be Republicans? From what I just said, it's obvious. Because Republicans support all of the ideals that I just named. And they always have. And if we continue to fight this fight, Republicans always will. We need to craft a message, folks. And we need to let this country know that, like our president, we are willing to put our hands up and fight for this nation. Come hell or high water. I want my grandson to one day turn around when he's my age and say, you know, this is the greatest nation on earth. And I've had a fantastic life and feel extremely blessed to live here and have had the freedoms that I have. That's my sincere prayer, that each and every one of you all's grandchildren will say the same thing. Now, before I close, I want to close with this. And I think I must have said this probably 50 times now, and I'm going to keep saying it because I believe it. Our president has a saying, and I started to wear my hat. But our president has a slogan. And I think all of you all know what that slogan is. That slogan is Make America Great Again. Now that slogan means a lot of things to a lot of people. Folks on the left, it just means you're a racist. But to me, the slogan Make America Great Again is a challenge and it's a commitment. You know, I had I guess you could say the opportunity to have a conversation with a left-leaning person on my social media page. And I was wearing, in the picture that she was referring to, I was wearing a hat, the Make America Great Again hat. And her comment to me was, when was America ever great? That question was right up my alley. This is how I answered. I told her America was great at Bunker Hill. When American patriots stood up on that hill, fought the most powerful army on earth, and got their tails whipped. America was great. Before she was even a nation, she was great at that moment. America was great at a place called Fredericksburg during our Civil War, where Union soldiers had to pile their dead up on top of each other to guard themselves from Confederate bullets. It was a horrible loss. But at that moment of death and destruction, America was great. America was great at Pearl Harbor. Through all that smoke and fire and death, America was great at that moment. America was great on Pork Chop Hill and at Quezon. America was great at the Edmund Pettus Bridge, when Americans were beat with billy clubs and had police dogs set on them, simply because they wanted to be treated as equals in this nation. America was great at that moment. And America was great on 9/11, during that terrible terrorist attack. America was great at that moment. Now you might ask yourself, why are you only mentioning the bad things, these bad things that have happened in our history? Here's why. Because it's at the low points in our lives and in the life of our nation when she has shown her greatness the most. It's not at the shining moments when everything's going fine, the economy's rolling good, and everybody's living fine that we show our greatness. Our greatness is shown through our adversity. And at these times that I just named, that's when we saw true heroism in this country. That's when we saw the steel resolve of our people in this nation. You know, it was at some of these times it looked like America was flat on her back with her mouthpiece knocked out and the count was at 9. But she raised up on her elbow and she got back up and she came back out swinging. That's why at these times it shows how great America is. The simple fact of the matter, folks, is this. America has never not been great. But for far too long, we've had politicians and pundits and professors who refuse to tout the greatness of America. It's time for that to stop. And we have a president in office now that is bringing that to a stop. And we need to follow his example. We need to wake up every day, rise up out of bed, go into our mirrors and look into our mirrors. And we need to ask ourselves every morning, what can I do today to make America great again? What act of kindness can I commit? What act of sacrifice can I give? What do I have inside of me that I can give to the cause of freedom to make America great again? Make America great again, like I said, it's a challenge and it's a commitment. And I encourage each one of you all to take that challenge and run with it. To wake up every morning and ask yourself, what can I do for the cause of freedom? What can I do to make America great? Over and over and over again. Thank you very much for your time. God bless you all. And God bless the United States.